The Streaming Paradox, Ackman's Heart, and the Drakes Get Richer. Welcome to the Unlimited Supply Podcast, your daily music business TLDR in your ear, powered by a tornado of queeners and rods, and brought to you by No Disc, helping music technology and finance companies navigate the music industry in partnership with Digital Music News. It's April 17th, 2026. I'm Lars Murray. It's another Finance Friday, so let's dive straight into the shallow money trench where thieves and pimps run free. Some weeks, the news just conforms to the unlimited supply schedule. Late on Wednesday, we had the Live Nation verdict, just in time for Touring Thursday, and yesterday and this morning have brought a cascade of financial nuggets, almost too many to handle in one day. So we'll start with the big kahuna of developing stories, the one we devoted an entire show to last Friday. There's a reason Bill Ackman is a billionaire. Actually, there are probably a few reasons, but one of the big ones is that he's one hell of a pitch man. On top of all of the number crunching he did to arrive at a $64 billion valuation for Universal Music Group, he also spun a pretty convincing tale last week that there's a lot more value to be squeezed out of its stock. This week, he doubled down on the story with an announcement that he wants to take his Pershing Square Group public in part to finance the deal, implying that he's so confident that this one's a winner that he's willing to bet the company. Whether or not this actually happens, it's kind of a win-win for him. After all, even if he doesn't manage to wrest control of UMG and restructure it, even putting it in play tends to raise the stock price. If he does manage to pull off this whole operation and get control of UMG, he's done it with a lot of other people's money. So at this point, the likely outcomes are win or win-win. This, my friends, is why people choose finance over the music industry for their careers. There's another win in all of this too, potentially. If he manages to pull this off, he also gets all of those soft perks, like hobnobbing with the stars and potentially driving the culture. Though I don't think that's his priority. In fact, there's one scenario in which Pershing Square doesn't even get UMG, but its IPO goes forward anyway. What better way to market your IPO than to splashily go after a high-profile entertainment company? That'll get investors' attention. Music, as usual, makes for good marketing. For anyone insisting the Iran war is 4D chess, no, folks, this is what 4D chess looks like. Dylan Smith did the heavy lifting over at Digital Music News. UMG isn't the only chess piece being played this week. On the live side, Coachella is a king or a queen in chess terms, and California Governor Gavin Newsome played that piece this week, jumping on the Coachella Week hype train to highlight the fact that Coachella and Stagecoach generate 7 rods or $700 million of activity for California every year. In California financial terms, that's not a huge amount, but given that all of this happens in about 3 weekends, it's pretty impressive. And when you're running for president, standing next to success is the job description. Music makes for pretty good marketing. From the behemoths of industry finance to the people who make it all go, the artists and songwriters, there's a new report from the European Research Council looking into a phenomenon that any artist or songwriter would recognize. The question is the exposure of being on a streaming service enough to offset the low payouts of streaming? This is known as the streaming paradox, an accurate description and a nice little piece of shorthand for here on the pod. Seems like everybody, record execs, the Bill Ackmans of the world, the Daniel X of the world, are making bank in this business, except the artists and songwriters. It was long an accepted and perhaps obvious article of faith that everybody needs to stream in order to be heard. If you don't stream, do you really exist? As the streaming shares get smaller and smaller and move up the chain, we'll get to that in a minute, it is definitely time for artists and songwriters to maybe take a good long look at their streaming versus sales strategies. There are no easy answers here, but there's a whole lot of insight in that report. Getting back to who's actually getting paid, over at his Infinite Catalogue Substack, old friend and industry gadfly Hunter Giles has been running the numbers on streaming payouts in a multi-part series. He does the heavy lifting of taking Spotify's Loud and Clear report data and analyzing it to see how it's really affecting artists and songwriters. He dropped part 2 this week with a 30,000-foot view of how Spotify divides its payout pie. As a reminder, for streaming services, reducing content costs is pretty much baked into the business model. Putting it another way, the less they pay artists and songwriters, the more margin they keep. But that's not the news now. The news is that the artist share relative to Spotify revenue is shrinking, indeed, and that the $100,000 a year class of artists on Spotify is shrinking more than other tiers. Not only that, but payouts and shares have been shifting upwards to the elite. The Drakes get richer, a phenomenon that will doubtless warm the cockles of the hearts of folks like Bill Ackman investing in large music companies, assuming they have hearts. There's no way I can even scrape the surface of the detail in this report, but I recommend you go check out Hunter Giles's Substack post at the link in the show notes. Reducing content costs is only one way Spotify and other streaming companies are looking to goose their bottom lines. The other major growth area for streaming, with Western market growth flattening, is places like India. According to a report from the Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, the picture over there is a little bit mixed. Over at Music Business Worldwide, they're reporting that paid subscriptions are up about 25% in India year over year. The not so great news is that the total number of paid subscriptions in India is 14.4 million, which is less than 10% of the 178 million streaming listeners in India, and that 178 million is actually down from 220 million in 2022. So, at the bottom of the funnel, things are monetizing slightly better, but the top of the funnel has narrowed. The other big number to keep in mind is that 178 million total streaming listeners is itself only about 12% of India's 1.4 billion person population. So looking at it one way, there's not much per capita streaming going on in India. Only 1 to 2% of the Indian population is paying for streaming. Looking at it the other way, it leaves a lot of upside, which is another number that will warm the cockles of Bill Ackman's purported heart. That's about all we can stuff into this Finance Friday. Monday and Tuesday, I'm headed off to Nashville for the Hits Home Conference. If you're going to be there, hit me up on the LinkedIn or at lars@nodisc.com. Let's get coffee or something stronger. I'll be the one with the Unlimited Supply limited edition trucker cap on, which you can now acquire. Now they're for sale. The trucker cap is on sale in our store, bundled with a year-long premium membership to Unlimited Supply. So for one reasonable price, you will have the satisfaction of supporting Unlimited Supply. You will receive a shout-out as a supporter in the show, and you will receive a limited edition Unlimited Supply trucker cap. To get your hands on one of these bad boys, just head over to the Unlimited Supply shop. We also have Unlimited Supply merit badges, or you can just buy me a cup of coffee. We've made all this commerce very easy for you with a link in the show notes. Our Unlimited Supply Song of the Week comes from Angine de Poitrine. We talked about them earlier this month. The name of the song is Fabienk, or Fabienk. Not exactly sure how that's pronounced. You can go listen to it wherever you get the Unlimited Supply podcast playlist. There is a link in the show notes. If you like what you hear, please hit that follow button wherever you get your pods. I live for your praise and encouragement in person, but it helps a lot more if you drop us a rating and or a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify. And tell a friend or three, preferably 21 times, because according to marketing whiz Susie Schultz, it now takes not 5 but 21 times for anything to sink in. So I'll say this one again: buy an Unlimited Supply limited edition trucker hat. Links, including links to support us, are in the show notes, but you can also visit unlimitedsupplypod.com to sign up for our newsletter, to tell us what you think about the show, to suggest feature ideas, to feed us info, to feed us lunch, to call us out on our dubious assertions, and to tell us what we're missing out on. In the words of the great philosopher Eduardo Rivadavia, don't let your short-term greed get in the way of your long-term greed. And remember, in this business, no conflict means no interest. See ya in Nashville.